I was I was in a pretty hot, heated situation and had like, high blood pressure kind of a situation come on due to stress. And like you get this like headache behind your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like you get pressure, nasal pressure, whatever. And like that is like I feel that pressure in my head. Like I absolutely like that shit makes my blood boil is actually like very accurate for how I'm, feeling. S-tier arrogance. That's what I'm talking about. Real talk. So all of a sudden now though, people understand what happens when there's drug addicts in the family, and suddenly now we know what that's like, and not being able to get a job and not. So now all of a sudden these people know about drug addiction and how it affects the family. Isn't that crazy? Like when it's them, they understand, but then somehow when it's everybody else, they don't have the same kind of sauce. Here, I want to get the opinion from this Brit real quick, and then I want you to listen to Megyn Kelly tell her story, and then we'll go on ahead and end this bad boy. Let's let this rock real quick.
The backdrop to this, of course, is that prior to becoming vice president, then retiring and then becoming president, Joe Biden's main contribution to the canon of American law was to increase the penalties for gun crimes and drug crimes, and often to increase the penalties where those two things intersected. He spent years, decades, railing against people who had addiction and saying that it didn't matter. There's a speech he gave in the Senate where he says it doesn't matter. That's not what's important, whether people are addicted or not. So the history here is interesting in and of itself. But the chutzpah of this statement, NBC News published a reported piece this afternoon in which it suggests that Joe Biden had decided in June that he was going to say that he would not pardon his son, even though the plan was to pardon his son. But it wasn't just that he lied about it and then changed his mind. The plan was to lie about it and then change his mind. You can look it up. Go read the NBC News story. That was part of the whole approach. And then he has the temerity in the statement that you just quoted from to finish it by saying, throughout my entire career, I've had one principle to which I have hewed, and that's to tell the American people the truth. So he says that in the statement in which he is announcing a pardon that he had said for 6 months, having planned to do so, that he was not going to pardon his son. I mean, you just could not write it. It's extraordinary. The whole thing is such a great example of corruption. And what makes it more annoying than most of Biden's annoying habits is that this has been used over and over and over again to demonstrate Biden's supposed moral superiority, his integrity, his honesty, his willingness to stick to the rules, what separates him from others, why one has to vote for him or his vice president, because he's the sort of man, you see, who understands the rule of law, respects the rule of law, even when his own son is involved. And of course, it just turns out that it was an election year ploy and the whole thing was a massive lie. And that's before we get, as I'm sure we will, to what you were adumbrating earlier, which is this bizarre super pardon that covers activity for 10 years, much of which hasn't yet been prosecuted.
The thing about this, as you say, multi-layered.
And this is kind of what so I liked his insight, because again, I think he also came from a slightly different position. It's like, hey man, like part of his is like Grandpa Joe, right? It's like, oh, he's such a great father. He's always telling the truth. You know what I mean? Like he's so honorable and completely doing the unhonorable thing. But listen, I want you to listen to Megyn Kelly real quick. I don't know. I don't know how to. Like I was telling you before, bro. Just let it roll.
Here, but one of the things about this that really gets me is he's trying to make a victor out of Hunton. It's clear Hunter was treated differently. He's trying to make a victim out of him. And as opposed to like, if you guys lied and said that your payments on strippers and hookers were tax write-offs, like you wouldn't be prosecuted. It was just poor Hunter who had to deal with that. And it was really just his addiction. Like if usually addicts just get a pass, it's only poor Hunter who didn't. And the audience has heard me talk about this in bits and pieces over the years. And I'll just offer this. My own sister got swept up into the opioid crisis. And it was truly not through fault of her own. She was, she needed a pain medication after this incident she suffered. And they gave her this drug and specifically told her, like we saw in Dope Sick with respect to OxyContin, though her drug was not OxyContin, that it wasn't addictive. So she started taking this drug and sure enough, she got addicted. And then she got really addicted and her life went to hell. I mean, we'd never had, an alcoholic or drug addict. That wasn't a thing that was really in our family. And my poor sister's life got completely blown up by this addiction, to the point where she ultimately, once the family sort of tried to let her have a tough love period where we weren't helping her out of the jams that she was creating, found herself in the throes of the criminal law. I mean, it was petty any stuff, but she did wind up on the wrong side. And you know what she did? She had to handle it. She had to get a public defender. She had to handle the penalty. She didn't go to jail or anything like that, but it remained a mark on her record forever. And you know what that does to a person? You can't get a job. You cannot get a damn job because it's on there. And no one gives a damn that you were addicted. No one cares about that backstory I just gave to you. So fuck you, Joe Biden, and your sob story about your rich, spoiled presidential kid, Hunter Biden, and how he's been singled out. Because I know I speak for millions of people who have an addict in their family who did something they're not proud of, who could never get out from under it. We have no sympathy for you, Hunter Biden, and even less for you, Joe Biden, because you enabled all of it. You were using him to line your own pocket. That is what the emails suggest, 10% for the big guy, and Tony Bobulinski and others. And Rich, this is why, just one of the many pieces, why this whole thing is so irritating.
Man, they sure figure out how to deal with that whole,
But instead of an addiction they couldn't control, but they're just genetically predisposed to ratchetness and fuck shit.
They don't see us as the same, bro. They don't see us as human beings. That's why, right? Because she said that as if she didn't realize that there is a whole economy based around this shit that she was just talking about. Like a literal pipeline that ushers people right on to the jail door.
A great song you should check out, Mortal Technique, called Peruvian Cocaine.
Okay.
Great song. Like every verse describes the pipeline.
Okay. Peruvian.
First verse is the Peruvian worker that's feeling trapped. He wants to raise up against the overseer, but he's too tired to really make moves. He's talking about he wants to run, but they might do something to my family. So until I find a way out, I'm just stuck with this grind. The next verse is the drug lord in Peru, overseeing the operations. Third, corporate white guy bringing it into America. Fourth verse is the Pookie distributor. I think the last verse is like the old head in prison, thinking back on everything, like how the system led him there.
How God, yeah. I mean, again, because the people at the top are like, oh, they don't give a fuck about these people like this. They're just like, let's just like put them in there. Let's make this machine go. I ain't worried about them. I don't worry about their families. I don't worry about none of that stuff. Pass that legislation though. You know what I mean? Like put that 3 strikes thing in there so we can go on ahead and get this party started. And that's literally what happened. Like that's wild. But I thought I just had to, like, seeing her get all animated and upset like that, and I'm just like, man, that's so crazy. I wish you would say that about black men. You know what I mean? Like, I wish you could have that kind of energy. It's like, so you know what the feeling is like, right? So like, oh, so I know you know what it feels like now. So you know what we're talking about. So you can't play dumb anymore. So then we're like, when 85% of us are in there for non-violent drug offenses or some dumb shit like that, or jaywalking, and we're like, hey, this is jacked up. What has happened? And then you guys are like, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like, I heard what you said a second ago. What your sister and all that, was that bullshit? Were you lying? It was.
We just not human to you.
You don't count.
Which is it?
You don't count. You don't count. You do not count. And look, here's what I want to do. I want to come back to this again because I think it's important. Because because people, I just don't think
they confiscate in terms of that. You have a piece.
Where's is Wrench Turner still up in here? Yo, Wrench, we're gonna watch this full smoke crack right now. Not just a photo. We're gonna watch him smoke crack. He's gonna smoke the crack right in front of you. Let's go.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1, we passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice. Under our forfeiture statutes, the government can take everything you own everything from your car to your house, your bank account, not merely what they confiscate in terms of the dollars from the transaction that you've just got caught engaging in. They can take everything. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society. They are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street.
Well, rules for thee, not for me.